We have multiple major Toronto Raptors updates to discuss as the Toronto Raptors have parted ways with Masai Ujiri, and all eyes are on what this team does next, especially with more influence from this new ownership group on this Toronto Raptors team and lots of trade reports, news, and rumors regarding the squad over the past few months have picked right back up following the departure of Masai. So we're going to break down what these updates are, how this departure of Masai and him parting ways with the Toronto Raptors has impacted all of the intel we've received over the past couple of months, and now what we can expect from this Raptors team moving forward. So much to discuss out here in this video, folks. You guys have been crushing it, hitting that subscribe button. We are so close to 40,000 subscribers, trying to get there this off season, and we're moving up every single day. We're getting that number going, so make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing that's going on, and join this community we have here at Raptors Digest. But what is happening? What is on the go? Because, of course, there was a lot said yesterday, the past couple days, about Masai Ujiri leaving the Toronto Raptors and questions about what is going to happen with the direction of this team under the hands of Bobby Webster in the GM role, as he was given the agency to really handle this team over the next couple of months and is extended as GM. So even if he doesn't become the president of basketball operations, he will still be involved in the day-to-day GMing of this squad. So what is going on? Well, we have a ton of updates from Jake Fisher that's revealing a lot of things that's happened in this situation. So firstly, there's been buzz for some time now. Masai, who was going into the last year of his contract next season, there was pressure on him and the front office to add winning players and take the next step. Take this thing the next step. So that is very, very intriguing and frankly shed some light in terms of the direction the Raptors are going. We have a bunch of reports, so make sure to, we'll dive into all that. But this is the first thing I want to sink my teeth into, because basically Masai Ujiri was pressured to add some big players, add some guys that will help speed up this rebuild very, very quickly. And that's where these reports that have been brought up in regards to the Raptors trying to land a big fish, trying to get a piece that will come in and change this rebuild right away, even if it sacrifices some of our future. That's where that's coming from. That stemmed down from ownership, and they wanted one of these moves and stuff to happen fast. They're sick of the Toronto Raptors being out of the mix, and frankly want to rush this rebuild. Of course, whenever that happens, when ownership starts meddling in a rebuilding process, it 9 out of 10 times goes very, very poorly. So that is kind of unfortunate and is a sign for things to come, because Masai Ujiri at least had some cachet out there with Keith Pelly, with Larry Tannenbaum, with all these guys. But now Masai Ujiri's out, as vice chairman and president of basketball operations, and we only really have a GM here now at this point. And basically, Bobby Webster is a young executive in the NBA, widely respected, very intelligent, don't get me wrong on anything like this, but he doesn't have the, cachet to be swinging with Edward Rogers on the board. If Edward Rogers wants to speed up a rebuild, he is going to be forced to do this, or he's going to be on his way out. That's what happens out there in these situations. Of course, Bobby Webster's extended, so I don't imagine he'll be like fire, but there is less leverage to push back and be like, okay, let's let these guys mature, develop, and if we do make trades, wait for till their value is higher, rather than, trading them before they blossom and come to their own. So that is a concerning development, that even Masai Ujiri was getting pushed around in regards to the trade talks and scenarios and everything that was going on, and that's why we heard a ton of rumors about Giannis. Well, Giannis regardless. Giannis is worth it, right? Yeah, any team should be after Giannis, but Kevin Durant, Ja Morant, we were one of the favorites to get him, even though it didn't make any sense right there. That's why the Toronto Raptors are thrown out there in all these discussions and discourse. So that's the first kind of update that we have, and that's going to only get extemplified following Masai's departure. Also, the new ownership group wanted to have someone that wasn't so directly affiliated with the team, wasn't a supercharged, larger than life figure. He was the de facto ownership figure going into these governor board meetings. So that is kind of just stupid, right? That is another dumb reason why Masai Ujiri was let go, was departed from the Toronto Raptors. I broke down the multiple reports we got about Rogers not wanting to pay its executives a big salary, which, is what it is. Like, that is the definition of cheap. I know people say, oh, he paid Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Yeah, but, if they didn't bring back Vladdy, the Toronto Blue Jays fan base would have absolutely set fire to Rogers Center. It's just what would have happened. So basically, they were forced into that. He didn't really have a choice to move in that direction there. And, the things that you can cost cut on are executives. No one cares about executives. You don't see the salaries and stuff like that, right? That's, that's something that a decision Edward Rogers tried to make to save some pennies out there and relative to how much money these sports teams are making. So that's the first thing. I mean, he's on, like the type of contract that, Bruce Brown got paid more than Masai Ujiri last year, right? Who's more valuable to this franchise? What are we talking about here? But that is the first thing. Of course, we also heard that he didn't like that Masai Ujiri was doing too much with Giants of Africa and stuff like that. And then, of course, now you get this update that they didn't want a larger-than-life figure outshining, the face of the Raptors ownership group, which is the new sports czar in Toronto, Edward Rogers, who is, getting that going. So annoying, absolutely annoying, but that's an update there. And then also, we have some updates in regards to the trade situations, as the Raptors have been involved a whole lot in trade conversations throughout this entire draft cycle. So this has been going on with the fact that Masai Ujiri's been out, so that's going to continue to play into its own. And there's conversations right now that the Raptors are still going to be looking at the trade markets for both RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley. So I don't think Toronto is done, even though they are moving forward in a different direction. Bobby Webster and Dan Tolzman will still be very active. So that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff to talk about in these trade scenarios. And it all kind of makes sense because Bobby Webster knew he was running the show for the past month, I'd imagine, in terms of everything that was going on here. So all this discourse, all this stuff, because some people said, hey, maybe Masai Ujiri was under pressure because he was on the last year of his contract and wanted to make the team winning, or else he'd be fired or left or whatever ended up happening. That doesn't seem like it's going to be magically fixed now by Bobby Webster, who has a more secure contract going forward as this team's GM. Edward Rogers wants this team to get back to winning, back to making money, back to playing, in the first round of the playoffs, right? That's what these owners want because they make a bunch of money when you get back into the postseason. So that's something that's getting rushed, it's getting pushed, and that's why we are seeing, rather than letting this group mature and develop and get into that spot, you're seeing pushes to get trades of RJ Barrett, Immanuel Quickley, and all these types of guys. And, of course, I've shown these guys' stats a ton over the course of this offseason. RJ Barrett averaging 21 points per game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. 35% at the 3-point line, 40% on corner threes. And Immanuel Quickley, 17, 3, and 5, or 6 last season. 38% of the 3-point line and 38% corner threes. 26 years old. Like, the Raptors have a couple of guys that in this backcourt that are pretty pricey here now at this point, but hopefully can take that leap next season. I've been adamant, especially in the case of RJ Barrett, keeping him out here on the roster, but especially where luxury tax is brought up a ton during the meeting from Keith Pele with the media and stuff for the past couple of days. I wouldn't be surprised the Raptors try to shed more salary, and I don't know if that's going to be beneficial. Of course, staying under the second apron, it doesn't make sense to cross that, even if you have a owner that's ready to pay, ready to get rolling out there on that front. But of course, if you're bringing up the luxury tax, and what are we really doing here? But there's teams interested in Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett. The Kings have been a name that's brought up a ton. We'll keep you updated on all the specifics of these trade reports, but we know the direction that's happening with this team and don't expect these rumors to slow down anytime soon. So let me know what you guys think about all these updates, all this news regarding this Toronto Raptors team. You guys have the best thing as far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.